In 2022, a post on Reddit would be made by a user named Wayward Koala titled Dr. Gloves. Who is he? Inside of the post it said, "The Dr. Gloves case has been bugging me for a while, and I'd appreciate any input y'all have. A warning, this case is absolutely horrific and involves The images on this post have been censored but are still very disturbing. In the photos embedded in the text and attached at the end, I have blacked out most of the children's that aren't covered by clothing and anything exceptionally. The only other adjustments I've made to the photos are to adjust the brightness and contrast. A link for all of them and some additional ones is at the end if you want to do your own digging into it." As for the background info, it states, "For those that are unfamiliar with this case, images began circulating online in the mid-2010s that show an unidentified man playing with the corpse of stillborn/missing abusing a child, and at minimum photographing himself messing with children who were severely disabled or comatose. The photos originally appeared on 4chan or Addict, a now defunct forum. From items in the background, the earliest the photos could have been taken was 2014, which would line up with when they appeared on the internet. The photos seem to be taken in a hospital in the US from the outlets and other things. The majority of photos show his arms and hands wearing surgical gloves, although a few of the photos show his body from the neck down. In the photos showing his head, he is wearing a black rubber mask, potentially a GIMP mask, which is typically used for fetish play. He is a heavier set white male who is probably between 30 to 45 years old. I haven't tried to figure his height out yet, but he looks to be between 5'8 and 5'11. From the photos, it's obvious that Dr. Gloves has ready access to both living and fetal remains, so his working in a hospital seems likely. Some people say that he is a child mortician, although the extent of his contact with living children makes me question this assumption. Personally, I think he is a physician. He could be a nurse, but having access to a room where he could comfortably put on a GIMP mask and pose with the children seems unlikely for a nurse. In some photos he's wearing scrubs, but in most photos he is wearing a dress shirt. In one photo he is seen wearing dress shoes and slacks, and nicer socks. Again, this would be odd for a nurse. For similar reasons, I think it's unlikely that he is a CNA, patient care technician, or pathologist's assistant. So for the most part, this is pretty much all of the information that was provided when this original Reddit post was made, in addition to all of the photos that I just showed you, which again are heavily redacted, given how grotesque the images are. Hey everyone, it's Wildman. I hope you are doing well, and in today's video we are going to be diving into the highly disturbing case of Dr. Gloves. Now, the contents of this case are incredibly disturbing and honestly pretty upsetting, to say the least. So in this video I am going to be heavily censoring a lot of stuff. This includes how I phrase things, so you'll probably hear me say like grr and stuff like that. I can't really get around it or else the video will get demonetized. I know a lot of you have commented that in previous videos, but honestly I literally cannot say these words or this video will not be able to be uploaded. So given that you're gonna hear me say stuff that, you know, I'm pretty sure you can make out what I'm trying to say, but things like grr and erder and fant for infant. It sucks, but you know, I kind of have to do it. And most of our information is going to be coming from the website whoisdrgloves.com, a website that was created by internet investigators that have done their best to compile all of this evidence to hopefully lead to an arrest of the individual in these photographs, because the acts that have been committed in these photos are flat out disgusting. And before we dive headfirst into this case, I am going to be putting up a screen that says all of the disclaimers, so that way you are aware of the contents of this video, and if any of these make you incredibly uncomfortable or if you don't feel like watching, that is completely fine, but I do highly recommend heading off of this video and checking out a different one. Alright, so disclaimers are up right here. Be sure to check them out and ensure that you do want to watch this video. Okay, with that out of the way, let's dive into this case. So when we first dive into the website, we are greeted by the homepage, which states who is Dr. Gloves. Below this, we can find a brief description of what this website is and why it's being worked on. Sometime between 2014 and 2018, an online user operating with the pseudonym Master allegedly began posting several disturbing images online to various de/ger forums, including theaddict.com and 4chan, depicting what he deemed original content, photographs that he had taken himself. The photographs appear to have been taken in 5 primary locations: a rundown or dilapidated hospital, morgue, or dated surgery room, a children's hospital, a ventilator unit, a commercial or residential office, a commercial walk-in cooler or kitchen, and a hospital mother/baby labor and delivering unit. Using several internet archival tools, I have sourced much of the so-called, quote, original content that was posted to these forums, and have arranged them into 7 heavily redacted image series, which I have used to solicit the public's help in identifying the perpetrator as part of a 5-part true crime investigative series featured on Invisible Choir, plus confidential informant tier. I'll talk about that in a little bit. That investigation led to the development of an investigative collaborative composed of law enforcement, medical staff, and prosecutors utilizing local, state, and federal resources. The original content photograph depict the individual who was later dubbed Dr. Gloves based on his choice of outfit/disguise in the photographs, engaging in various abhorrent behavior, including posing with alleged fent brains and other organs, aggressively handling and feigning the mutilation of unalived, preterm, and just born fent remains, abusing at least one live newborn baby, physically mocking and abusing ventilator dependent children ages 2 to 12, and physically abusing and feigning the mutilation of a live child, approximate age 4 to 8. So like I stated at the beginning of this video, this is incredibly disgusting things. So like it was mentioned in this paragraph, there was a 5-part true crime investigative series featured on Invisible Choir, which is a podcaster that really dove into this case and actually got a lot of information that eventually led to the arrest of this individual. This information, however, is unfortunately hidden behind a paywall, and I don't want to, pay for it and then show all of you guys, because I feel like that kind of messes with the effort that Invisible Choir, did to help progress this case. Although I do think it is a little bit strange to have evidence hidden behind a paywall. I know he's giving it to law enforcement for free, but it's a little bit weird because I feel like if that information was out, maybe someone could have, identified who this was a lot quicker. But that's just my 2 cents. In the next section, it gives us 3 popular theories that people had. So once word started to spread about the case of Dr. Gloves, people began to theorize about who this person was and what was really going on. And included in the website are 3 of the top theories that are proven to be completely false. The first being is that police/FBI have refused to investigate because although what the images depict is immoral, they do not actually depict anything illegal. This is false. After consulting with Dignity Health Hospital Communications and Security staff and the San Bernardino Special Investigations Unit, this case is currently being actively investigated by law enforcement and has expanded to include utilization of various local, state, and federal resources. To date, over a dozen search warrants have been executed in the case. Both medical staff and prosecutors have reviewed the photographs and believe they do depict criminal behavior, though the statute of limitation of those crimes depicted may have already expired. Then the second theory goes into if Dr. Gloves is a child mortician or a staff member at the Community Hospital of San Bernardino or in the broader Glendale, California region. This again is untrue. Based on our extensive investigation, we were able to confirm that the photographs 6-1 through 6-12 were taken on at least one Dignity Hospital campus. We do not believe that the individual abusing the children in the photographs is or was a member of the hospital staff in any capacity, unless through a third-party contract. Law enforcement does not believe this individual was ever employed in any formal capacity with the Dignity Health facility where several of these photographs were taken, so how they gained access is still one of the principal mysteries of this case. The third theory states is that if there is one individual behind the Dr. Gloves series of images, and it is false because there's actually more than one. Thanks to Invisible Choir plus listeners, curious Redditors, and law enforcement, we have identified multiple photographs from the Dr. Glove series that are either completely unrelated to the primary abuse/exploitation case were taken with permission in actual medical or pathological lab spaces. Photos 2 through 14 and 2 through 15 were confirmed to have been screen captures from the educational Fant autopsy video filmed at the La Villa General Hospital in Mexico City. Image 5 through 1 is not believed to be related to this case or taken by Dr. Gloves. Our working theory in this case is that several of the original photographs were added to the actual Dr. Gloves child abuse and exploitation images to further add to their shock effect to consumers online. Now, diving into the next section of the website, it gives a reason as to why the exposure of this case is so important. Please submit a tip through this form if you believe you know the location pictured in the Dr. Gloves images, or if you know the individual depicted in the photographs posing with, abusing, and exploiting the children and Fant/Edel remains. Name and email addresses are required if you wish to collect any advertised reward monies. Then it goes on to say that if you have any information, to please contact the San Bernardino Police Department directly, and then it gives the number. And scrolling down to the bottom of the website reveals the images redacted, saying that everything inside of this link has been completely redacted of all and faces in order to protect the victims' identities. We are appealing to the public for help in identifying the locations in which the photographs were taken, as well as the identity of the person or persons responsible. Please review the brief legal disclaimer before viewing the redacted image series. And after all of that, you can finally click proceed. The first series of images that was uploaded is called the Walk-In Cooler. The location is unknown and the reward is about $1,000. In the description it states, Dr. Gloves poses with, mishandles, and throws preterm ceased Fant organs into the air, including 3 brains on a residential oven broiler pan. Additionally, clicking the analysis section leads us to a PDF where there is an in-depth dissection of this first image of Dr. Gloves holding an oven tray with a Fant on it. And as for the highlights of this report, it details how they interviewed 2 people, 2 restaurant owners to be specific, RK and JK, to see if they could identify the pan that was being used in the image. After digitally removing the child from the photo and showing them the images, RK immediately identified the pan as a standard oven broiler pan, going on to say that you can find the same one at Walmart. RK also commented on the dark markings on the broiler pan itself in image 1-1, indicating that they were likely, quote, burnt remnants from meats or other organic tissue dripping into and burning on the pan. She indicated that over time, these dripping stains burn with each subsequent oven exposure and become more difficult to remove. The rest of the images are very grotesque, albeit they are redacted from any of the gruesome displays. In the last image of the series, it's dissecting the mask. Some key notes are that it's latex, has torn eye holes, single seam, nose holes with garments, V-shaped neck, skin tight. In series 2 and 4, it's called the Morgue. Description: Dr. Gloves appears to aggressively handle and choke ceased Fant remains aged approximately newborn to 2 to 3 months. The individual also poses for photographs while using their left hand to choke the ceased Fant, while using a thumbs up gesture next to the ceased Fant remains, and using various medical instruments to mutilate or feign mutilation of the Fant remains, including scalpels and needled instruments. In that original Reddit post, the one that started this entire investigation, when talking about the morgue, it states, photos from the morgue are mostly him posing and playing with the remains of still and severely premature fetuses. The room itself appears old and dilapidated. There are some appliances and cabinetry in the room, as well as a storage closet. Despite how shabby the room appears, I think it is actually being used as a morgue or autopsy suite, and it's not just some storage closet he goes to for the sole purpose of doing what he does. Now, to be completely candid for a second, this series of images honestly did make me a bit unwell, and honestly I did need to take a break from scripting this video for a couple of days, just because It's honestly like looking at the morbid depths of what human beings are capable of. I've said this in previous videos, but seeing what people can do when they're, I don't know, not in the right state of mind is incredibly tragic and disgusting. And this next series that we are going to look at is, I honestly do want to put another disclaimer, because this is the series that made me have to take that break, because it's incredibly horrifying. Because what separates this series of images from the rest is, while in the previous images, none of the victims, at the very least, were alive in the photographs. However, in this series of images, they are. Morbid and depraved would be an understatement. Series 3, The Child and the Blades. Location, unknown. $1,000 reward. Identity of child, unknown. Refer to law enforcement. Description: a man with light skin and hairy arms poses with a live child, approximate age 4 to 9, aggressively pulling their hair and feigning mutilation. A heads up, these photos are probably the most disturbing and depict child. The photos from the office feature a young girl who appears to be under 5 years old. She isn't hooked up to any tubing or medical equipment, which makes me wonder if the photos were taken in a residence or somewhere outside the main facility. I think the office photos are taken at his home or maybe some other location. The door's molding, rocker light switch, and cable TV hookup all seem like things you wouldn't see in a hospital setting. On top of those things, the child in the office photos does not appear in any of the other photos and appears normal and healthy. Plus, picking up a young girl up by her hair would undoubtedly elicit a scream that would attract attention. In the first image, Dr. Gloves holds up a scalpel, and in the second, the tool set is shown, which the surgical tools that are depicted in the image are sold at places like Ace Hardware for about $3 to $7. In fact, if you go to an Ace Hardware right now, you can find this exact set. Then in the following images, the child is shown, and in the last image, the child's t-shirt is shown. The shirt is tie-dyed in this very unique way, and it's the reason why it was included, to see if anyone would recognize the shirt in the photo. In this final series of images, it's called The Medically Vulnerable Children. Location, Dignity Health Facility in Southern California. Identity of children, law enforcement is actively working to identify victims and contact families. Description: Dr. Gloves poses with several medically vulnerable, ventilator-dependent children, ages estimated between 2 to 12 years old, while pressing his fingers/hands over their mouth and noses, using his characteristic thumbs-up gesture, and taunting them while photographing them. This series also includes a separate image that appears to depict the gloved individual smothering a newborn infant in a Dignity Health mother and baby delivery center blanket. So debriefing this case has been up and open since the 2010s, and this website was created in around 2023, and perhaps the biggest breakthrough that eventually led to the arrest of this individual in these photographs happened not until July 31st of this year, 2025, which honestly, thinking about how this person was out there for so long is incredibly terrifying. I was also listening to the Invisible Choir podcast episode about this very case, and Invisible Choir has to be credited for doing a lot of the gathering so much of this information, but hearing him talk about the case is incredibly jarring because he has to jump through so many hoops when it comes to actually getting somebody to work on this case. First, what he did is that he called the hospital that a lot of these images were taken at, and the hospital pretty much just ghosted him for a couple of weeks, and when he followed up, they said that they submitted a police report. However, when he called the police station and asked for said police report, they told him that it was never filed, which led him to believe that the hospital just literally didn't want this to be a stain on their reputation. So instead of filing a police report to bring this person to justice. They decided to just let it go because it would tarnish the hospital's reputation as to how someone was able to break in and do all of these things. So what Invisible Choir did is that they filed their own police report, and this finally got the ball rolling and led us to where we are today. On July 31st, 2025, one of the law enforcement primary unresolved questions has been how the individual known as Dr. Gloves may have accessed what initially appeared to be fent human organs, particularly the brains depicted in Series 1, without detection by medical facility staff or through standard autopsy protocols. However, our investigation has since definitely confirmed that the organs shown in Series 1 are not human, but rather animal specimens, photographed in what appears to be a university-level anatomy and physiology lab. Update, July 31st, 2025. We have now definitely confirmed that the morgue photographs depicted in Series 2 and 4 were taken on a Dignity Health campus located in the state of California. This confirmation resolves a key question in the investigation, as the location of these images establishes a material connection to the broader allegations of child exploitation and abuse. How the individual depicted in these photographs gained access to this secure room remains a mystery. Update, July 31st, 2025. We have meticulously analyzed every image in the series, cataloging the specific brands and types of gloves, clothing, and other distinguishing details present in these disturbing photographs. While we initially sought public assistance in identifying the individual behind the mask, we can now confirm that the person known online as Dr. Gloves has been definitely identified. With this confirmation, the remaining focus of our investigation centers on tracing the exact locations where the images were taken and establishing how this individual gained access to restricted medical spaces. Please submit a tip through this form if you believe you know the precise locations depicted in the Dr. Gloves images. We already know the identity of the individuals depicted in the photographs posing with abusing and exploiting the vulnerable children and fent/edel remains. However, as of September 8th, 2025, all of the site's information would be taken off the website and replaced with this message, a message that is still up when you visit the site right now. At the request of the San Bernardino Police Department, portions of this website have been temporarily taken offline to avoid jeopardizing what they describe as an active and ongoing investigation into the individual known as Dr. Gloves. While certain materials are unavailable during this period, our mission remains unchanged. We continue to seek the truth and welcome any credible information from the public. If you have tips, leads, or relevant information, please continue to share them through our confidential tip line. Every submission is reviewed and forwarded to the appropriate authorities. So, leaving off of this video, the person or persons in these photographs have been identified. However, according to the site's own message, it seems that they have not been apprehended. So unfortunately, it seems that more evidence is still required to take legal action against the persons in these photographs. So if you do have any evidence or recognize anything in these photographs, I highly recommend visiting the Who is Dr. Gloves website and submitting a tip through their confidential tip line. But with that, I'll leave the video here. I'll see you in the next one. Thank you so much for watching. Take care. Love ya. Bye-bye. And I want to give a huge thank you to all of my channel members for making this video possible, as well as my ultimate tiers, Crumster, Kareem Mariano, and Alejandra from the Tower.